After our argument, my daughter made me some coffee. Dad, drink this as a sign of reconciliation. It tasted strange. 10 minutes later, I realized something was wrong. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I was in my home office reviewing quarterly expense reports when Alex walked in without knocking. That should have been my first warning. Sophie followed 2 steps behind him, her expression tight and anxious in a way that made my stomach clench. Alex carried a manila folder like it contained something precious. He spread papers across my desk, pointing at numbers with his index finger, talking fast about guaranteed returns and ground floor opportunities. His cologne was too strong in the small space. Henry, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. 50,000 gets us in on the ground floor. 8 months, we're looking at 25% returns, maybe more. I closed the folder and slid it back across the desk. My reading glasses came off slowly, deliberately. The conversation was finished. I've heard these promises before. The answer is no. Alex didn't move. Instead, he leaned against my desk, his hip pressing into the edge, invading the space I'd carved out for myself in this house. I'd built with my own hands 25 years ago. We take care of everything around here. The yard, the maintenance, making sure you eat properly. This house, realistically, it's already ours in all but name. The words hit me like ice water. I stood up my chair, scraping against hardwood. This is my house. I built it. I paid for it. And you two have lived here rent-free for 3 years. Sophie's hand slammed down on the desk, not quite violence, but aggressive enough to make the lamp rattle. Her face flushed red from neck to hairline. You've always been like this, counting every penny, hoarding everything. We're your family, not some charity case. I gave you $25,000 last year. You spent it in 5 months and never told me what it went toward. That's not fair. We had expenses. You don't understand the pressure we're under. But I did understand. I understood that my daughter had become someone I barely recognized, and the man she married had accelerated that transformation. Alex's hand moved to Sophie's lower back, controlling, guiding her toward the door. The gesture was possessive in a way that made my skin crawl. Mom always said you loved that business more than us. I guess money is all you ever really cared about. She'd be ashamed of the man you've become. I kept my voice quiet, steady. Your mother would never say that, and you know it. They left together. Alex glanced back, once his expression unreadable, and then they were gone. The house settled into silence around me. I walked through the rooms that night, touching things. Eleanor's photograph on the mantel, her smile frozen in time. The banister I'd installed myself, sanding it until the wood was smooth as glass. Books on shelves, their spines cracked from reading. Each object was a piece of my life, evidence of what I'd built, what I stood to lose. Sleep didn't come easy. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, watching shadows rotate in the darkness. Morning arrived cold and gray. I heard Sophie's footsteps in the hallway before I saw her face appear in my doorway. Her eyes were red, puffy. She'd either been crying or had done an excellent job making it look that way. Dad, can I come in? I couldn't sleep last night. I said terrible things I didn't mean. You seemed to mean them at the time. She moved into the room, wringing her hands. I was stressed. Alex lost another contract, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. I sat up against the headboard, studying her face. She looked young suddenly, like the girl who used to bring me coffee in bed on Sunday mornings when she was 8 years old. Sophie, we need to talk about last night, about what Alex said. Please, Dad, just let me make it up to you. I made your favorite coffee just like you like it. 2 sugars, splash of cream. Consider it a peace offering. She led me downstairs to the kitchen, where a cup sat waiting on a small tray with a napkin folded beside it. The ceremony of it felt deliberate, important. She handed it to me with both hands, and I took it, our eyes meeting over the rim. Drink up. It's getting cold. I held the warm ceramic, feeling its weight. Part of me knew better. Part of me wanted to believe my daughter was still in there somewhere underneath the desperation and resentment. I took a sip. There's nothing to forgive. I lied. Sophie smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. She busied herself wiping down counters, organizing the dish rack, but her movements were jerky, nervous. She kept glancing at the microwave clock. I retreated to the living room with the newspaper, trying to focus on headlines that blurred into meaningless shapes. 15 minutes passed. Then the room tilted sideways like the house had become a ship at sea. Nausea rose in my throat, hot and insistent. The newspaper slipped from my hands. I tried to stand, but my legs were made of water. I grabbed for the armrest and missed my vision narrowing to a tunnel. The phone. I needed the phone. It sat on the side table, impossibly far away. I lunged forward, fell to my knees, crawled the last few inches. My fingers were clumsy, thick, but I managed to unlock the screen and press the numbers. 911911. What's your emergency? My tongue felt swollen. The words came out slurred, distant. I've been poisoned. I think need help. Sir. Sir, I need your address. Can you tell me where you are? 1234 Ochre Lane, Riverside. The phone tumbled from my grip. Darkness pulled me down like drowning. My last thought before consciousness fled.
Sophie, what have you done? Sound came first, a steady beeping, mechanical and insistent, then sensation, something plastic in my nose, a pinch in my left arm. Sheets that felt starched and unfamiliar. My mouth tasted like copper and chemicals. I opened my eyes to white ceiling tiles and fluorescent lights that made everything too bright, too sharp. My head throbbed with each heartbeat. A nurse appeared in my peripheral vision, her scrubs covered in tiny cartoon cats. She smiled when she saw me looking at her. Mr. Baker, can you hear me? Squeeze my hand if you can hear me. I squeezed. My grip felt weak. Where am I? You're at City General Hospital. You were brought in by ambulance last night. How are you feeling? My head. Everything's foggy. What happened? She checked monitors, made notes on a tablet. The doctor will explain everything. I'm going to let him know you're awake. Time passed in strange elastic stretches. I examined the IV in my arm.
The leads attached to my chest, trying to piece together how I'd gotten here. Then memory came flooding back like ice water the coffee. Sophie's face watching me drink, the room spinning, the phone call. Dr. Harris arrived carrying a tablet, his expression serious in a way that made my pulse quicken on the monitor. He pulled a chair close to my bed and sat down heavily. Mr. Baker, we need to talk about what happened to you. He turned the tablet so I could see the screen. Numbers, charts, medical terminology that meant nothing to me. His pen pointed at specific values. Your blood work came back with some concerning findings. I need to ask you directly. Did you take any sedatives yesterday? Sleeping pills? Anxiety medication? No, I don't take anything like that. Just blood pressure medication. That's what I thought. He tapped the screen. See this number here? That's 2 times the therapeutic dose. Mr. Baker, your blood shows high levels of benzodiazepines and diphenhydramine. Someone put these in something you consumed. The words hung in the air between us. I heard them, understood them individually, but together they formed something impossible. Diane, what does that mean? It means this wasn't an accident. The combination, the dosage, this was deliberate. Mr. Baker, this was attempted poisoning. My hands clenched the bedsheet. I closed my eyes and saw Sophie handing me the coffee, her smile that didn't reach her eyes the way she'd watched the clock. My jaw tightened until my teeth ached. That's not possible. Who would... But I knew. Dr. Harris saw it in my face. Do you know who might have done this? His voice was gentle but firm. Hospital protocol requires reporting suspected poisonings. I hesitated. The words stuck in my throat. How do you tell a stranger that your own daughter tried to kill you? Dr. Harris read my silence like a book. Family, he asked quietly. I nodded barely. I'm required to report this. Attempted poisoning is a serious crime. Wait, can you give me some time? I need to be absolutely certain before I make accusations. Mr. Baker, someone tried to kill you, I know, but if I'm wrong about who, I need to think clearly, please. 48 hours. He studied me for a long moment, then flipped through screens on his tablet. I'm documenting everything. The timeline, the blood work, this conversation. If you change your mind, or if anything else happens. He left the threat unfinished. You're lucky you called 911 when you did. Another 10 minutes at your age with your blood pressure. You understand what I'm saying? I understood. I was supposed to be dead. He left me alone with that knowledge. I stared at the ceiling, counting tiles, processing what had happened. My daughter, my only child. She'd tried to end my life for what the house insurance money. Because Alex convinced her it was the solution to their problems. The anger that rose in me wasn't hot. It was cold, calculating, sharp as surgical steel. Later that afternoon, Sophie burst through the door like a hurricane of emotion. She rushed to my bedside, grabbed my hand in both of hers, pressed it to her cheek. Tears streamed down her face. Dad, I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay? What did the doctor say? I let my hand lie limp in her grip, spoke slowly with pauses like I was confused and exhausted. Sophie, I'm all right, just confused about what happened. You collapsed. I found you and called 911. Well, the paramedics were already there, but I was so scared. Alex stood behind her, hands on her shoulders, but his eyes were on my face, scanning the monitors on the wall, the charts hanging at the foot of my bed. Henry, did the doctors figure out what caused this? Was it your medication? We need to know so it doesn't happen again. They're still running tests. Something I ate maybe, or a bad reaction, but they must have some idea. Did they mention your heart? I watched his face as I answered, no, nothing definite. Just need rest. Sophie squeezed my hand tighter. When I mentioned something I ate or drank, her grip tightened involuntarily, just for a fraction of a second. Alex's eyes flicked to Sophie briefly. I caught both reactions, filed them away. This is my fault. If I hadn't gotten upset yesterday, if we hadn't argued, the stress probably triggered this. It's not your fault. The lie tasted like ash. But it is. I said awful things. I've been a terrible daughter. Can you forgive me? There's nothing to forgive. Alex leaned forward. Well, the important thing is you're okay now. You'll be home soon, and we'll take care of you. The emphasis on those last words made my skin crawl. Yes, home soon. We'll make sure you're comfortable. Whatever you need. I appreciate that, both of you. They stayed another 15 minutes. Sophie performing her grief and relief. Alex playing the supportive husband. When they finally left, I sat up straighter immediately. My weakness had been an act. I pulled out my phone, opened my notes app, and typed rapidly. Sophie hand tremor, sweaty palms when I mentioned Food Junior. Alex probing questions about diagnosis. Both visibly relaxed when I claimed confusion. They don't know what I know. The nurse returned to check my vitals. I asked for my tablet. That night, I didn't sleep. I searched for estate attorneys in Riverside, reading reviews carefully. I needed someone aggressive, thorough. Someone who specialized in estate litigation. The word weapon kept running through my mind. I wasn't looking for a lawyer. I was looking for a weapon. Sophie and Alex thought they could end my story. They thought I was just an obstacle between them and my assets. They tried to make me disappear. Instead, they'd created something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. They wanted to play this game. I'd play it better. Not with rage or grief, but with cold, methodical precision. They tried to end my life. I was going to dismantle theirs piece by piece until nothing remained but consequences. The monitors beeped steadily in the darkness. A heartbeat, a countdown. The hunt was about to begin. The discharge nurse wheeled me to the hospital entrance while Sophie hovered like a nervous bird, asking questions about medication schedules and follow-up appointments. I played my part perfectly, moving slowly, gripping the wheelchair armrest, letting confusion cloud my face when she asked if I understood the instructions. Alex brought his truck around. I noticed his hand trembling slightly on the steering wheel. The ride home was thick with unspoken tension. Sophie drove my car with Alex following in his truck, checking the rearview mirror every few seconds to catch my expression. I stared out the window, watching Riverside slide past, but my mind was calculating. Tomorrow morning, I had an appointment downtown. Dad, are you comfortable back there? Should I adjust the air conditioning? I'm fine, just tired. Alex's voice came from the passenger seat, carefully casual. The doctors really didn't say what caused it, just a reaction, something like that. Can't remember all the medical terms. Sophie's response came too quickly. The important thing is you're okay now. Home looked the same. My house built with my own designs, paid for with my own labor. Sophie had prepared my bedroom. Fresh linens, flowers on the nightstand, a water pitcher with condensation beating on the glass. The performance continued. She insisted I rest, brought lunch on a tray with a folded napkin. Alex checked in twice, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. I thanked them with appropriate weakness, watched them leave. Through the closed door, I heard their voices downstairs, muffled, urgent. Couldn't make out words, but the tone spoke volumes. Fear, anxiety, calculation. I waited until morning. Sophie left for her real estate office at 9 Harud. Alex drove off 15 minutes later for his supposed business meetings. I watched from my window until both vehicles disappeared. Waited 5 more minutes. Then I moved to my car with none of yesterday's hesitation, my body responding with the strength I'd been hiding. Downtown Riverside traffic was manageable at this hour. Ellis Law Firm occupied the 7th floor of a glass building near the courthouse. The receptionist led me through wood-paneled corridors lined with law books and framed certificates. Karen Ellis's office smelled like leather and old paper. She was 55, gay-haired, sharp-eyed. She listened to my story without interrupting. The argument, the coffee, the poisoning, the hospital diagnosis. Sophie and Alex's transparent concern masking their terror. When I finished, she sat down her pen and studied me. Mr. Baker, what you're describing is attempted murder. Have you filed a police report? No. I want justice, not just punishment. I want them to lose everything they tried to steal. That's a different kind of justice. It requires patience, planning. I have patience, and I have something they don't. Time to plan properly. Karen outlined state-to-state law with clinical precision. No forced heirship for adult children. Complete testamentary freedom. I could disinherit Sophie entirely, leave everything to charity if I chose, but we'd need documentation evidence. She slid a business card across her desk. Tom Reed, former detective, now private investigator, best in Riverside for this kind of work. His office was less polished. Functional furniture, filing cabinets, computer equipment. Tom Reed was 48, weathered, cynical in the way cops and investigators become after seeing too much human ugliness. You think your daughter tried to kill you for inheritance, I don't think. I know. He didn't flinch. Financial background checks aren't cheap. We're looking at 3, maybe 4,000 for comprehensive workup. Whatever it costs. I need to know everything. Most people in your situation just want enough for divorce court or civil cases. You're building something bigger. I'm building an airtight case. When I move, I want no questions left unanswered. I gave him names, dates of birth, social security numbers, the credit card account I'd co-signed years ago. He estimated 3 weeks for the full picture. Whatever they're hiding, I'll find it. I stopped at the hospital records department on my way home. 150 pages documenting my near death. Toxicology reports, physician notes, lab values. Dr. Harris's assessment was stark. Intentional poisoning with benzodiazepines and antihistamines in concentrations consistent with deliberate administration. I made 3 copies, one for Karen, one for Tom, one for my safe deposit box. 3 days later, a security company van arrived. Sophie was at work. Alex was out. The technician was young, efficient professional. This is a pretty comprehensive system for a residential property. I live with family members. I want to make sure my home is secure when I'm in my bedroom. The cameras were small, discreet, professional-grade living room, kitchen, dining room, all legal in state. My property common areas only. I tested each angle on my phone, adjusted positions, confirmed audio quality. Perfect. That night I lay in bed monitoring the feed. Alex paced the kitchen, fist hitting the counter. Sophie sat at the dining table, head in her hands. I couldn't hear everything clearly, but fragments carried. If he knows too late now, we need that money. Each word confirmed what Issa already knew. 15 days after hiring him. Tom called. His voice was flat. Professional. Henry, the numbers are worse than you probably imagined. Total debt is approaching $250,000. I pulled out a notepad. Break it down. Alex has $100,000 in business loans from failed ventures, $50,000 in credit card debt, $40,000 owed to private lenders at 20% interest. Sophie has $35,000 in credit cards. Monthly payments exceed their combined income by about $5,000. How are they even making minimum payments? They're not. 3 accounts are delinquent. They're juggling credit cards to pay credit cards. Classic debt spiral. Send me everything, every document, every source. The financial report arrived by encrypted email that evening. I spread the pages across my desk, highlighting key figures. 100,000, 50,000, 20% interest. The numbers told a story of desperation, of drowning, of people who saw me not as a father, but as a solution to problems they'd created themselves. They hadn't tried to kill me out of hatred. They'd tried to kill me out of necessity. To them, I was worth more dead than alive. The house valued at $900,000, my savings, my assets. Dead, I represented salvation. Alive, I was just an obstacle. I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest, not heartbreak. That required an intact heart. This was something else. Clarity, purpose, resolve. Sophie knocked on my door around 10. Dad, do you need anything? Can I get you dinner? I'm fine, honey. Just resting. You've been in here all day. Are you sure you're feeling okay? Just need quiet. The hospital was exhausting, hesitation in her voice. Okay, but if you need anything, anything at all, I know where to find you. After she left, I opened my evidence folders. Medical records documenting the poisoning, financial reports showing their desperation, surveillance footage capturing their panic, legal documents from Karen outlining my rights. I organized everything methodically, backed it up to cloud storage, created redundant copies. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was something else now, something patient and strategic and dangerous in ways they couldn't comprehend. They'd wanted to play for my estate to eliminate the obstacles standing between them and financial relief. They had no idea what they'd actually created. A man who'd survived their worst, who knew their secrets, who held all the cards they thought they'd stacked in their favor. Tomorrow, I'd change my will. And then I'd show them what justice really looked like. Karen Ellis's conference room felt appropriately formal. Mahogany table leather chairs, law books lining the walls. I sat at the head, flanked by strangers whose impartiality would prove my competence. Lisa Kim, the notary, checked her supplies. Paul Adams and Maria Lopez, professional witnesses hired through Karen's office, reviewed their role. Neither knew me, which was precisely the point. Karen placed 3 identical documents on the table, each bound with blue covers. Mr. Baker, do you understand that this document disinherits your daughter completely? I understand completely. That is my explicit intention. And you're making this decision of your own free will without coercion or undue influence. Entirely my own decision based on circumstances detailed in the attached memorandum. She read the key provisions aloud for the record. Her voice was steady, professional, but I heard the significance in each word. I, Henry Baker, being of sound mind and body, do hereby revoke all previous wills and codicils. I leave my entire estate, including my residence at 1234 Pine Lane, Riverside State, and all financial assets to the Regional Veterans Aid Organization. Then the critical addition. I specifically and intentionally make no provision for my daughter Sophie Baker Miller for reasons detailed in the attached memorandum. The memorandum was 3 pages. Clinical detail devastating. The argument about money, the coffee Sophie insisted I drink. The hospitalization, the toxicology report showing deliberate poisoning with benzodiazepines and antihistamines. My reasonable belief that Sophie and Alex attempted to end my life for financial gain. Medical records attached dates times facts. Lisa Kim performed her verification. Mr. Baker, I need to confirm your identity and mental competence. Do you understand what document you're signing? Yes, it's my last will and testament revoking all previous wills. My estate goes to the Regional Veterans Aid Organization. Are you under any medication that might impair your judgment? No, I'm completely clear-minded. I signed each copy slowly, deliberately. My signature was steady. No tremor, no hesitation. Lisa applied her notary seal. Paul and Maria signed as witnesses, confirming my lucid demeanor. Karen's office camera recorded everything. Standard procedure, but also additional proof I'd need later. 2 days passed. I attended what I told Sophie was a follow-up doctor's appointment. Actually, I met Tom Reed to review surveillance footage. When I returned home mid-afternoon, I had mail and documents in hand. I walked through the front door, entered the kitchen, and placed everything on the counter, including the will folder positioned with the law firm letter, head visible, corner exposed beneath other papers, not hidden, not forgotten, staged. I retreated to my bedroom and waited. Sophie arrived home an hour later. I heard her car, her footsteps the refrigerator opening. Standard routine, then silence, the kind that precedes discovery. Through my surveillance feed, I watched her approach the counter, reached for water, noticed the documents. Freeze. Her hand hovered over the law firm letterhead. She glanced toward the stairs, checking for me, then picked up the folder. She read standing. I watched her face drain of color, watched her other hand rise to her mouth, watched her knees buckle. She grabbed the counter for support. She pulled out her phone. Her fingers shook so badly she had to try twice to unlock it. Alex, get home now. 15 minutes later, his truck screeched into the driveway. He came through the front door, still wearing his jacket, moving fast. Sophie thrust the will at him. He read, standing, flipping pages quickly, then slowing at the memorandum. His jaw clenched. He set the document down with excessive care, like it might detonate. Their voices were low, urgent. I couldn't make out words through my bedroom door, but I didn't need to. The surveillance system captured everything. The knock came 15 minutes later. Controlled, professional, not aggressive, not timid. I opened the door. Alex stood there, and I saw the moment he registered the change in me. No frailty, no confusion, just level eyes and straight posture. Henry, we need to talk. Sophie found something disturbing. A will? There must be some mistake. There's no mistake. That's my new will, properly executed and filed. He tried reasoning first. They were family. They cared for me. This charity didn't even know me. When that failed, his tone shifted. You're making decisions that affect everyone in this house. Decisions based on what hospital confusion medication affects. I'm making decisions based on being poisoned. The toxicology report was very clear. Benzodiazepines and antihistamines don't spontaneously appear in coffee. His mask cracked. You can't prove anything. You're an old man with health problems making accusations. Sophie appeared behind him, tears streaming. Dad, how could you think we'd hurt you because you did, and now you'll get nothing from it? Alex stepped forward, aggressive. Now his finger jabbed toward my chest without touching. We'll contest this will. We'll prove you're not competent. We'll get doctors to testify. You're paranoid, delusional. I didn't move. Try it. I have evidence you don't know about. I have documentation you can't imagine, and I have time. Sophie dropped to her knees on the hallway carpet, literally hands clasped, theatrical and desperate. We owe $200,000. Without inheritance, we'll lose everything, please. The number hung in the air, confirmation. She knew I knew. You should have thought of that before you tried to kill me for it. If you would just help us one more time. I'm done helping. I'm done being your solution. I'm done being your victim. Alex pulled her up roughly. We'll contest it. We'll sue. We'll make your life miserable. I nearly died. You already made my life miserable. Now it's my turn. You're a vindictive old man. I'm a man who survived attempted murder. Get out of my room. Sophie tried one more appeal. So that's it. Years of being your daughter and you just cut me off. Years of being your father and you just tried to end my life. Yes, that's it. Alex's hand clamped on her arm. Come on, he's not worth it. I stepped back, hand on the doorknob. No, Alex. I'm worth exactly $900,000, and you'll never see a penny of it. I closed the door, stood there listening to Alex's footsteps storming down the stairs. Sophie's sobbing following. The front door slammed through my window. I watched Alex's truck peel out tires screeching on asphalt. Sophie left. 15 minutes later, the house settled into silence. I returned to my desk, pulled up the surveillance footage on my computer, their faces when reading the will. Alex's threats. Sophie's breakdown, her implicit admission about the debt, all recorded time-stamped, backed up to cloud storage. I downloaded the files, sent copies to Karen and Tom. Evidence, documentation, proof. First strike delivered, not impulsive, not emotional, calculated, strategic, cold. They wanted to fight. I'd give them a fight on my terms with my advantages. They'd tried to eliminate me for money. Now they'd watch that money disappear untouchable beyond their desperate grasp. Outside, dusk settled over Riverside. The house was mine again, quiet and still. Tomorrow, I'd call Karen about eviction proceedings. If they couldn't pay market rate rent, they'd have to leave. But tonight, I simply sat in the silence they'd tried to make permanent, and I planned my next move. Tom Reed's call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing surveillance footage from the previous night. His voice had that careful tone investigators use when delivering bad news. "Henry, we have a problem. Alex has been meeting with a psychologist named Dr. Frank Lewis." I set down my coffee. "Psychologist for what, not therapy? Lewis has a reputation. He writes diagnosis for whoever pays. I think Alex is trying to get you declared incompetent." The strategy was clear immediately. Invalidate the will by claiming I wasn't mentally capable when I signed it. Clever. Unethical, but clever. Can he do that? He can try. With a convenient diagnosis, they could petition for guardianship. Challenge your will based on mental incapacity. I drove to Tom's office within the hour. He'd spread surveillance photos across his desk like evidence at trial. Alex entering Lewis's building, sitting in the waiting area, leaving with papers. Tom had pulled Lewis's history, lost hospital privileges 3 years ago after allegations of providing convenient disability diagnosis for insurance fraud. "He's basically a diagnosis for hire," Tom explained. "Through my home surveillance system, I'd been noticing other signs. Sophie had visited Helen Green next door twice in the past week. Through the cameras, I'd seen them talking on Helen's porch. Sophie gesturing, Helen looking concerned. They were building a narrative. The confused old man, the worried daughter. I called Karen Ellis from Tom's office. I need a comprehensive psychiatric evaluation, the most thorough one available. Preemptive documentation, she said immediately. Smart. I'll refer you to Dr. Grace Turner, board-certified forensic specialist. Dr. Turner's office was in the medical district. All neutral colors and abstract art. She was 59, gay-haired, skeptical in the way good psychiatrists are. "Mr. Baker, why are you seeking this evaluation? I want documentation that I'm of sound mind. My daughter is likely to claim otherwise. That's unusual. Most people in your situation avoid evaluation. Most people haven't been through what I've been through. I want the truth documented before lies can take root." The evaluation took 3 sessions over a week. Cognitive testing, drawing clock faces, recalling word lists, solving problems, mental status, examination, life history, interview. She was thorough, professional, probing exactly what I needed. Her report arrived via encrypted email. Mr. Henry Baker demonstrates full cognitive capacity, intact, memory, logical reasoning, and appropriate judgment. He shows no signs of dementia, delirium, or any condition that would impair his ability to make legal or financial decisions. His concerns about family members appear reality-based, not delusional. The document was detailed, notarized, unassailable. I filed copies with Karen Tom in my safe deposit box. Meanwhile, Tom intensified surveillance on Alex and Lewis. 4 days after my final session with Dr. Turner, Tom called again. "They're meeting tomorrow. Coffee shop on the outskirts, strip mall location. Alex thinks it's private." We coordinated carefully. Tom positioned himself inside the coffee shop with his laptop and a tablet case containing professional directional microphone equipment. State is a one-party consent state, and I was authorizing the recording. I parked outside with clear view through the window. Alex arrived first, chose a booth in the back. Lewis came 10 minutes later, balding, rumpled suit, the look of someone whose ethics had been for sale long enough to show wear. They ordered coffee. Then Alex slid an envelope across the table. Through the window, I photographed the exchange. Lewis checked inside discreetly but obviously, then pocketed it. Cash payment, no paper trail. Tom's equipment captured everything. I need this evaluation to show he can't make decisions. Severe dementia. I can document cognitive decline, memory impairment, inability to manage finances. How much? $6,000 for the evaluation written report and court testimony if needed. And you can make it convincing. I've done hundreds of these assessments. I know exactly what courts look for. The conversation continued. Alex mentioned filing for emergency psychiatric hold. Lewis advised on triggering involuntary evaluation. They discussed tactics for guardianship proceedings. Every word was recorded, time-stamped, backed up to cloud storage before they'd finished their coffee. I had them. That afternoon, I invited Helen Green over. She came hesitantly, clearly uncomfortable. I made coffee steady hands, coherent conversation, and showed her Dr. Turner's evaluation report.
Helen, I want you to know I'm of sound mind. What Sophie and Alex are telling you isn't true, and I can prove it. She shifted in her chair. Henry, I need to tell you something.
Sophie came to me last week. She said you've been confused forgetting things. What did she say specifically? That you wander around at night, that you've accused them of trying to hurt you? She seemed very concerned. Helen, do I seem confused to you right now? She paused, studying me. No, you seem perfectly clear. Actually, you seem sharper than usual. That's because I am clear, and I'd appreciate if you document that observation in writing. She emailed me a brief statement that evening. Met with Henry Baker on June 10th. He appeared lucid, coherent, and mentally sharp. Conversation was logical and appropriate. One more piece of evidence. Karen, Tom, and I met in her conference room to review everything. I sat at the head of the table now, not the side. This was my operation. You've successfully defended against the incompetence attack, Karen said. The question is whether to go on offense with this recording. What are my options? We could report Lewis to the licensing board, potentially sue Alex for defamation and conspiracy, or we keep it in reserve as leverage. Keep it for leverage. I want them to hang themselves completely before I use everything I have. Karen drafted a letter delivered by certified mail legal notification that Henry Baker had been evaluated by board-certified psychiatrist and found fully competent. Any attempt to file false claims about mental capacity would be met with legal action, including defamation suits and potential criminal charges for conspiracy to commit fraud. The letter didn't mention the recording. That was my ace. Through surveillance, I watched Alex receive it 4 days later. His face darkened as he read. He immediately pulled out his phone, paced the driveway. I couldn't hear his side of the conversation, but his body language screamed frustration and fear. That night, Sophie and Alex fought. The surveillance system captured it clearly. This letter says they'll sue us if we claim he's incompetent. Alex, he knows. How does he know calm down? He's guessing. He can't know about Lewis. What if he does? What if he recorded something? He's an old man. He doesn't have the capability for that kind of surveillance. I almost laughed. An old man. They still underestimated me. The next morning, I called Karen and Tom to my house. We sat in my office, the same room where this had started with Alex's investment pitch months ago. So we've blocked their attempt to declare me incompetent. What's next? Karen leaned forward. Legally, you have grounds to evict them. They're living in your home without a lease, without paying rent. How fast can we move on that in state? We can file this week. If they refuse to leave or pay rent, we can have them out in 90 days. Tom added, and their financial situation means they can't afford market rent. I thought about it for exactly 4 seconds. Then we file. No more living in my house while plotting against me. Karen pulled out the paperwork. Demand for rent or possession. Market rate $3,000 per month. Due within 15 days or face eviction proceedings. I signed the document. Karen filed it that afternoon. The counterattack was complete. Now came the siege. County Civil Court felt appropriately impersonal. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, the mechanical efficiency of law without emotion. I sat beside Karen Ellis at the plaintiff's table. Across the aisle, Sophie and Alex sat with their attorney, Tina Ruiz, who looked like she already knew she'd lose. Judge Elena Ruiz entered. We stood. She reviewed the case file with methodical precision. Karen presented our evidence. Property deed showing sole ownership. Documentation that Sophie and Alex had no written lease. Certified mail receipt showing they'd received demand for market rate rent. Their refusal to pay or vacate. Tina Ruiz tried her defense. Your Honor, this is a family dispute being disguised as a landlord-tenant issue. Mr. Baker is retaliating against his daughter for personal reasons. Judge Ruiz didn't look up from the documents. Does Mr. Baker own this property free and clear? Yes, Your Honor. I confirmed paid in full 25 years ago, and Miss Miller and Mr. Miller reside there without lease or rental agreement. Correct. They've lived there 3 years without paying anything. Do your clients have a written lease? Judge Ruiz asked Tina directly. No, Your Honor, but has Mr. Baker accepted rent payments in the past? No, but this appears to be. Then he's entitled to demand rent now. State property code is clear. Judge Ruiz signed the order with decisive strokes. 45 days to either pay market rate rent of $3,000 per month plus $3,000 deposit, or vacate the property. Failure to comply will result in sheriff-enforced eviction. The ruling took 10 minutes. Sophie started crying. Alex's fist clenched white on the table. Outside the courthouse, Alex intercepted us on the steps. Karen moved between us, but I stopped, turned to face him deliberately. You're really going to throw your own daughter out on the street. You tried to throw me in a grave. The street is generous by comparison. I'll tell everyone what kind of father you are. Tell anyone who will listen. I have documentation of what kind of daughter I have. Back in Karen's office, Tom joined us. He spread financial intelligence reports across the conference table. Every creditor Alex owed money to. They all think Alex has assets, Tom explained. Your house is collateral, inheritance expectations. What if they knew the truth? I authorized the information campaign immediately. Over the next week, manila envelopes arrived at lending institutions across state. Inside each, copies of the new will showing Sophie's disinheritance, the eviction court order, public records documenting Alex's total debt load, clear evidence he had no actual claim to my estate. Facts only, no threats. Let the creditors draw their own conclusions. Robert Castellano. The private lender owed $40,000 was first to react. Through surveillance, I watched Alex take the call. His face went from confident to ashen in 45 seconds. Alex, we need to talk about your loan. I'm good for it. You know I'm good for it. Really. Because I just learned you're being evicted and your inheritance is gone. What exactly are you good for? That's a misunderstanding. My father-in-law is just, I don't care about family drama. I care about my $40,000. You have 1 week. Alex tried everything. Personal loans rejected. Other private lenders, they'd heard about his situation. Loans in Sophie's name. Her credit was equally destroyed. He even researched bankruptcy, but that would discharge debts while leaving them homeless anyway. The financial pressure crushed them both. But Sophie broke first. She came to my office on a Thursday afternoon when Alex was out, knocked timidly. When I opened the door, she couldn't make eye contact. Dad, please. We have nowhere to go. We can't afford rent anywhere. If you evict us, we'll be living in our car. I kept my voice level. You tried to kill me. Why would I care where you live? I was desperate. We owe so much money. Her voice cracked. It was Alex's idea. He said you were going to die soon anyway, that we were just speeding up the inevitable. I didn't want to do it, but we're so far in debt. And she stopped realizing what she'd said. My phone was recording in my pocket. One-party consent completely legal. Thank you for that admission, I said quietly, her face drained of all color. Are you recording this? Yes, you just confessed to attempted murder. Through surveillance that evening, I watched Alex's reaction when Sophie told him he exploded. Not at me, but at her. You admitted it. You actually told him it was us. I didn't mean to. He was asking questions and I just... You confessed. You actually confessed to attempted murder. Their relationship was disintegrating under pressure. They barely spoke after that. Alex was on his phone constantly. Sophie packed and unpacked boxes in cycles of indecision. On day 20 of the 45-day deadline, Karen sent the final notice. You have 10 days to comply with court order or face sheriff-enforced eviction. Alex tried one last threat. He approached me in the kitchen. My kitchen in my house. If you go through with this eviction, I'll claim elder abuse. I'll tell authorities you're being neglectful, that you need oversight. I almost smiled. I have a psychiatric evaluation proving my competence. I have surveillance footage showing your abuse of me. And now I have a recording of Sophie admitting you poisoned me. Please make those claims. Give me a reason to send everything to the district attorney. His face went slack. He finally understood how thoroughly outmaneuvered he was. 10 days, I said. Leave voluntarily and I consider not pressing criminal charges. Force the sheriff to drag you out and I send every piece of evidence I have to the police and prosecutors. The choice is yours. Day 44. I watched from my bedroom window as Alex loaded his truck. He slammed boxes through belongings carelessly. Sophie cried as she carried items to her car. Neighbors watched from their yards. The spectacle was impossible to hide. I felt no triumph, just cold satisfaction. They were being purged, but I wasn't done. The eviction solved one problem. Criminal charges would solve the rest. I picked up my phone, dialed Tom Reed. Send everything we have to the district attorney's office. Medical records, surveillance footage, recordings, everything. It's time to finish this. 3 weeks after they left, I walked into the county prosecutor's office with Karen Ellis and Tom Reed. We carried 3 boxes of organized evidence. Rachel Klein's office smelled like coffee and old case files. She was 40, sharp-eyed with a reputation for prosecuting elder abuse cases. She gestured to her conference table. Show me what you have. Tom arranged folders methodically. Medical evidence, surveillance evidence, financial evidence, conspiracy evidence, confession evidence, each tab labeled, each document indexed. Rachel opened the medical folder first. Toxicology reports, hospital records, Dr. Harris's assessment. She read slowly, professionally, but I saw her eyebrows rise. This is extremely comprehensive for a civilian investigation, almost too comprehensive. Is that a problem? I asked. It could be if anything was obtained illegally. She looked at Tom. Walk me through your methods. Tom had anticipated this. One-party consent recordings legal in state, surveillance cameras in Mr. Baker's own home and common areas, legal financial records obtained through authorized investigation with proper documentation. Legal. Everything was gathered by the book. Rachel spent 25 minutes questioning the legality of each piece. Tom answered every challenge. Finally, she nodded. All right, let's look at the medical evidence. She read Dr. Harris's report aloud. Benzoazepine concentration 3.2, 2 times therapeutic levels combined with dianhydramine at toxic doses. This combination in a 62-year-old male with hypertension could reasonably be expected to cause death. She looked up at me. This isn't attempted poisoning, this is attempted murder. That's what Dr. Harris told me in the hospital. She moved to the surveillance evidence video clips audio recordings. She watched Sophie serving me coffee, her nervous movements afterward. She listened to fragments of conversations. If he knows, too late now. Then Sophie's recorded confession. Rachel played it twice. It was Alex's idea. He said you were going to die soon anyway. We needed the money. I didn't want to, but we're so far in debt. Rachel paused the playback. This is admissible. This is damning, and this is enough for arrest warrants. She called in Detective Lisa Vargas from City Police Department. Lisa was 42, methodical, with the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too many family violence cases. Rachel briefed her. Elder abuse, attempted murder conspiracy. The victim did half our work for us. Lisa interviewed me for 2 hours, taking detailed notes. She asked the same questions multiple ways, testing consistency. My answers never changed because they were true. Subject extremely credible, she wrote. Timeline consistent. Evidence supports narrative. 3 days later, Lisa and Rachel sat in Judge David Kent's chambers with warrant applications. I wasn't present, but Karen told me later. Judge Kent reviewed everything, asked few questions, signed. These are solid. Execute them. Lisa assembled her team. Tom had tracked Sophie and Alex to a budget motel on Route 45, paying weekly in cash, living out of their cars. Lisa planned an early morning arrest when suspects are least likely to flee. She called me at 7 a.m. on the day of the raid. Mr. Baker, stay home. I'll notify you when it's done. I waited, drank coffee, watched the clock. At 10 my phone rang. Mr. Baker, I wanted to inform you personally. Sophie Miller and Alex Miller have been arrested and charged with attempted murder and conspiracy. They're in custody at County Detention Center. I thanked her, hung up, sat in my quiet house. No celebration, just the exhale of breath I'd been holding for months. The bail hearing was next morning. Karen drove me downtown. I sat in the gallery invisible to them but present. Judge Carla Soto presided. Sophie and Alex were brought in separately, both in orange jumpsuits. Sophie had lost weight, looked hollow. Alex stood rigid, defiant. Rachel Klein argued flight risk. Mr. Miller was researching one-way flights out of state. They have no community ties, no employment, and face life sentences. The public defenders did their best. Community roots, no prior criminal history. Sophie's relationship to me. Judge Soto was unmoved. Bail is set at $600,000 each. Neither could afford even the 15% for a bondsman. They were returned to jail, separate sections, no contact. The local news picked up the story that evening. Daughter arrested for attempted murder of father in inheritance plot. My name was withheld as the victim, but their mugshots were public record. Helen Green called, "Henry, if you need anything, testimony, support, anything, I'm here." Thank you, Helen. That means more than you know. That night I stood in my kitchen, the kitchen where Sophie served the poisoned coffee. I'd repainted it since they left. Different color, clean slate. My phone buzzed. Text from Karen. Preliminary hearing next week. They'll likely waive it and go straight to trial. Are you ready? I typed back. I've been ready since I woke up in that hospital. I sent it. Set down the phone. The wheels of justice were finally turning. And I wasn't their victim anymore. I was their prosecutor's star witness. Late August heat pressed down on Riverside like a weight. I stood outside courtroom 3C at County Criminal Court, dressed in a conservative gray suit Karen had helped me choose. Looking credible, she'd said, looking stable. Through the door, I heard the murmur of jury selection, 12 citizens who would decide my daughter's fate. Rachel Klein found me in the hallway. Mr. Baker, you'll be called this afternoon. Remember what we practiced: clear, factual, no emotion. Let the evidence speak. I nodded. I had rehearsed my testimony for weeks. Opening statements began at 11 a.m. I sat in the gallery watching. Rachel stood before the jury. 7 women, 5 men ages, ranging from late 20s to early 60s. Teachers, engineers, retail workers, retirees, ordinary people about to hear an extraordinary story. This is a case about greed, desperation, and betrayal. The evidence will show that Sophie Baker Miller and Alex Miller attempted to murder Henry Baker Sophie's 62-year-old father by poisoning him with a lethal combination of medications. Why? For inheritance, for money. For a $900,000 house they wanted immediately, rather than waiting for nature to take its course. She walked toward the jury box, made eye contact with each person. Henry Baker trusted his daughter. He let her live in his home. He supported her financially, and she repaid that trust by putting poison in his morning coffee. At the defense table, Sophie was crying. Alex sat stone-faced, taking notes. Gary Nolan, Sophie's public defender, took a softer approach. My client made terrible mistakes born of desperation and manipulation. She was under crushing financial pressure and the controlling influence of Alex Miller, but attempted murder. The evidence will show a tragic accident, not intent to kill. Tina Ruiz, Alex's attorney, went aggressive. Alex Miller is innocent. The evidence will show that Sophie Baker Miller acted alone and has tried to implicate my client to deflect her own guilt. They were already turning on each other. Dr. Robert Harris testified first. He explained the toxicology with clinical precision. Benzodiazepine levels 2 times therapeutic dose. Antihistamines at toxic levels. In my professional opinion, this combination in a man of Mr. Baker's age and health status would likely cause death. The victim survived due to prompt emergency response. Nolan tried to create doubt on cross-examination. Could these medications have been accidentally combined? The specific combination and dosage make accident extremely unlikely. This required knowledge and intent. They couldn't shake him. Detective Lisa Vargas walked the jury through the investigation. Photographs of medication bottles from the motel, computer screenshots, lethal dose benzodiazepines elderly, how long for poisoning to kill state inheritance laws. Several jurors leaned forward. Engaged. Tom Reed testified about surveillance. Defense objected to admissibility. Judge Alan Ford ruled immediately. Cameras installed in Mr. Baker's own home. Common areas only are legal in state. Objection overruled. Then they played the footage. Alex and Sophie in my kitchen whispering, "If he knows, too late now." Sophie stared at the defense table, crying. Alex's jaw clenched. Helen Green testified about hearing violent arguments about Sophie, later claiming I was losing my mind, contrasting with Helen's observations of my clear competence. Then Sophie's recorded confession. The courtroom fell completely silent. It was Alex's idea. He said you were going to die soon anyway. We needed the money. I didn't want to, but we're so far in debt. Her voice filled the courtroom. Desperate, guilty, damning. At the defense table, Alex shot Sophie a look of pure fury. My turn came after lunch. I took the stand, raised my right hand, swore to tell the truth. Rachel walked me through it. The argument. The next morning, the coffee. Sophie insisted I drink it. Within 15 minutes, I couldn't stand. The room was spinning. I managed to call 911 before I lost consciousness. Nolan cross-examined, trying sympathy. "Mr. Baker, do you love your daughter?" "I did very much." "Do you love her now?" "I love the daughter I thought I had, but the person who poisoned me." "I don't know who that is." He tried to suggest vindictiveness. Changing the will. Eviction. "I changed my will after discovering she tried to poison me." "That's not punishment. That's protection." Ruiz was more aggressive. "Isn't it true you hired an investigator to spy on my client?" "I hired security after someone tried to kill me." "That's not spying. That's survival. I didn't break. Didn't take the bait." Against her attorney's advice, Sophie testified. She cried, apologized, claimed she never meant real harm. "I love my father. I would never want him dead." "Yes, I made the coffee, but I only put in sleeping pills." Rachel destroyed her own cross. Sleeping pills. "But your internet searches included lethal dosages and combinations that caused death. Explain that." I was just curious. I didn't mean you were curious about lethal combinations the day before you served your father coffee that nearly killed him." No answer. Alex denied everything. Claimed Sophie acted alone. Rachel played the recording of him discussing fake psychiatric reports with Dr. Lewis. The jury looked skeptical. Closing arguments were powerful. Rachel was relentless. They tried to murder a 62-year-old man for money. They failed only because Henry Baker was strong enough to call 911. They showed no remorse until caught. This isn't a family tragedy. This is attempted murder for financial gain. The jury deliberated 6 hours. I waited, didn't leave the courthouse. Karen sat with me quietly. Finally, verdict reached. We returned to the courtroom. Everyone stood. "Will the defendants please rise?" They stood. Sophie trembling. Alex rigid. The foreman was a 52-year-old engineer. His hands shook slightly. In the matter of state versus Sophie Baker Miller, count 1 attempted murder. We find the defendant guilty. Sophie collapsed. Her attorney steadied her. Count 2 conspiracy to commit murder. We find the defendant guilty. Same verdicts for Alex. He stood motionless, face blank. Judge Alan Ford thanked the jury, set sentencing for 2 weeks. Baves took them away. Sophie looked back at me, mouthed, "I'm sorry." I met her eyes, nodded once. Acknowledgement, not forgiveness. Outside courthouse steps, Karen asked, "How do you feel?" I considered like I can breathe again. Sentencing in 2 weeks, but the verdict was what mattered. Guilty. Both of them. Guilty. 2 weeks later, I returned to courtroom 3C for sentencing. The same wood paneling, the same state seal, but everything felt different. The uncertainty was gone. The jury had spoken. Now came the accounting. Baifs brought Sophie and Alex in separately. Orange jumpsuits, handcuffs, ankle chains that made metallic sounds against the floor. Sophie had lost weight, looked a decade older than her 38 years. Alex stood rigid, jaw set, refusing to show weakness. Judge Alan Ford reviewed the case briefly. "We're here for sentencing in the matter of state versus Sophie Baker Miller and Alex Miller, both found guilty by jury of attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder." Probation officer Olivia Park presented her reports first. Sophie, no prior criminal record, demonstrates remorse. Participates in jail counseling. Alex, minimal remorse, continues, claiming innocence. pattern of financial irresponsibility. Her recommendations were clear: mid-range sentence for Sophie, upper range for Alex. Rachel Klein stood to argue for the state. Your Honor, this was premeditated, attempted murder of an elderly man by his own daughter and son-in-law for financial gain. They researched lethal dosages, administered poison, showed no remorse until caught. The state recommends 20 years for Sophie Baker Miller and 20 years for Alex Miller. Gary Nolan pleaded for Sophie. No criminal history, crushing financial pressure, Alex's manipulative influence. She's already lost her father, her freedom, her future. Tina Ruiz had less to work with for Alex. She argued financial stress claimed he was Sophie's accomplice rather than leader. The recordings proved otherwise. Her argument was weak, and she knew it. Then Judge Alan Ford invited me to speak. I walked to the podium. I'd written a statement but didn't use it. The words came without script. Your Honor, on that morning, when I drank the coffee my daughter made, I trusted her. Parents trust their children. That trust was my vulnerability. They exploited it not just to steal from me, but to end my life. I gripped the podium edges, not from nervousness, but to ground myself. I survived by chance and quick action. They showed no remorse until they were caught. They tried to destroy my credibility, attempted to have me declared insane. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was calculated, planned, executed. I paused, met the judge's eyes. I don't ask for revenge. I asked for justice proportional to what they attempted, my life. Sophie was given opportunity to speak. She stood trembling, tears streaming. Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to my father, to this court, to everyone I've hurt. I was desperate. I was stupid. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want my father to know I loved him, and I destroyed that love through my own actions. Alex's turn. His attorney had begged him to show remorse. He didn't. Your Honor, I maintain I had no knowledge of any poisoning. I've been convicted based on circumstantial evidence and my wife's false testimony. Judge Alan Ford's expression hardened. Alex had just made his situation worse. The judge took his time reviewing documents in silence. Then he looked at both defendants. I've considered everything presented. This was a premeditated attempt to murder a vulnerable elderly man for financial gain. The violation of familial trust makes this particularly heinous. He turned to Sophie first. Sophie Baker Miller, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in the State Corrections Department with eligibility for parole after serving half your sentence. You are further ordered to pay restitution to Henry Baker in the amount of $150,000. Sophie collapsed. Her attorney steadied her. Alex Miller, you were the architect of this conspiracy. Your lack of remorse demonstrates you pose a significant danger. You are sentenced to 20 years in the State Corrections Department with eligibility for parole after serving 2/3 of your sentence. You are ordered to pay restitution to Henry Baker in the amount of $150,000. The gavel fell. Final irreversible. Defendants remanded to custody pending transfer to state facility. This court is adjourned. Bailiffs approached. Sophie looked back at me one last time, mouthed, I'm sorry. I met her eyes, nodded once. Acknowledgement, not forgiveness. Alex stared straight ahead as they led him away. In the courthouse hallway, Rachel Klein shook my hand. Justice was served today, Mr. Baker. I hope this brings you some peace. It brings closure. That's more valuable than peace. Karen drove me home. We didn't talk much. Words weren't necessary. First thing I did when I arrived home, changed every lock in the house. Front door, back door, side entrance, garage, new keys, new mechanisms, physical act of reclaiming my space. Each lock I installed felt like sealing off the past. That afternoon, movers arrived, creditors exercising their rights to Sophie and Alex's belongings. I watched from my window as strangers carried out furniture, electronics boxes, payment for debts that would never be fully satisfied. After they left, I walked through the empty rooms. In Sophie's former bedroom, I found one item they'd missed: a photograph. Sophie at age 7, gap-toed smile holding a Valentine's card. To Daddy, I love you. I stared at it for a long time. That little girl was gone. The woman who poisoned me had replaced her. But this photograph was from before. I didn't throw it away. I placed it in a drawer in my office, not displayed but preserved, a memory of who she was before she became who she is. That evening, I sat in my living room. The house was quieter than before, but it was peaceful quiet. I made dinner, ate at the table, watched the news, normal activities, but they felt different now, lighter, free. 1 week later, I sat on my back porch with morning coffee. The mail carrier arrived. Among the bills was an envelope from the State Corrections Department Riverside facility, Sophie's facility. I recognized her handwriting. My first thought was not to open it. My second thought was that avoiding it gave her power. I opened it. 3 pages, blue ink tear stains visible on the paper. She wrote about prison, the routine, the boredom, the fear. She wrote about regret-specific memories from her childhood times I was there for her. She wrote about understanding now what desperation made her do. She asked if I could ever forgive her, if I'd ever visit, if there was any possibility of redemption. She ended, "I don't expect you to respond. I don't deserve it, but I needed you to know that I finally understand what I did to you. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry." I read it twice. I didn't feel anger, I felt recognition. She was genuinely suffering consequences and genuinely remorseful. I folded the letter, placed it on the table. Later that day, I met Karen for lunch. Downtown restaurant quiet booth. I showed her the letter. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her. Part of me never can. Those aren't mutually exclusive. You can acknowledge her remorse without forgiving the act. You can have compassion for her suffering without forgetting she caused it." We talked about the house. I'd been considering selling it. Too many memories. Every room has echoes. Where would you go? Somewhere smaller. I don't need 2,500 square FT anymore. That afternoon, I drove to the Regional Veterans Aid Organization office. Small building, modest furnishings walls covered with thank you letters from veterans. Julia Santos, the director, greeted me warmly. "I don't want to wait until I'm gone," I told her. "I want to start now. I propose selling my house and donating a substantial portion to the foundation. I want to fund a specific program supporting victims of elder abuse and family violence. People like me who survive but need resources to rebuild." Julia was moved. "Mr. Baker, we could create a named fund help dozens of families." The next day, realtor Mark Hayes walked through my house with me. We discussed market value timeline for sale. "This is a beautiful property," he said. "It was beautiful. It can be again for someone else." He showed me 3 condos. The third felt right. One 500 square, 50, 8th floor view of downtown Riverside. Manageable, secure, no yard work, no memories. This one, make an offer. That evening, I sat at my desk with Sophie's letter. I pulled out stationery, wrote a response. 1 page. "Sophie, I received your letter. I believe your remorse is genuine. I also believe the damage you did can't be undone. I'm not ready to visit. I may never be ready, but I acknowledge you're serving your time and facing consequences. I hope you use these 15 years to become someone better than the person who poisoned my coffee. That's all I can offer right now. Henry." I sealed it, addressed it to Riverside Facility. Over the next few days, I decluttered methodically. Donations to charity, discarding items with bad associations, carefully packing what I wanted to keep. While packing my office, I found Sophie's childhood photo again. I looked at it for a long time. That 7-year-old with the gap to smile. I carefully framed it, packed it with important documents, not to display, but to keep. That little girl existed. She was real and loving. What happened later doesn't erase what came before. Helen Green invited me to a neighborhood dinner. I almost declined, but I accepted. The evening was surprisingly pleasant. Neighbors were kind, treated me normally. I realized I'd been so focused on justice that I forgot about life. This is what moving forward looks like. Small connections. Normal interactions, rebuilding routine. 2 weeks after Sophie's letter arrived, Julia Santos called. "Henry, the board approved the fund. We're calling it the Henry Baker Senior Protection Fund. Your donation will help abuse victims with legal support, housing assistance, counseling services." I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. Not revenge purpose, but constructive purpose. Late September evening, I sat on my back porch one last time as owner of this house. October 5th. The sale was pending, the condo purchase in process, the foundation donation being structured. I'd mailed my response to Sophie. Brief, honest, without false promises. I'd made my peace with what happened. Not forgiveness exactly, but acceptance. They tried to kill me. I survived. They faced justice. I reclaimed my life. I thought about the past 9 months, the poisoning, the investigation, the trial, the justice, the aftermath. Sophie in prison. Alex in prison. My house being sold, my new condo, my charitable work ahead. I didn't feel happy. Happiness seemed too simple. I felt settled, complete. The coffee cup in my hand was almost empty. Coffee I made without fear. I stood, walked inside, washed the cup, turned off the lights. Tomorrow I'd meet with movers. Tomorrow I'd start packing for the new place. Tomorrow I'd take another step forward. But tonight I simply existed. A survivor. Not a victim. Not an avenger. Just a man who refused to let attempted murder define the rest of his life. I closed the back door, locked it with my new key, and headed to bed. The house was quiet. The future was uncertain, but it was my future, and that was enough. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.